I've got Emily and Shung with me as well.
Okay.
Does now still...
Just give me a sec. I need to go find a spare room. 1 second.
No worries. Does now still suit? We can call back later if it's better.
Okay. Get up. Hello.
Hi, sorry. You got a good space?
What's up?
Have you found a good space?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're doing our assignment and we're looking at the future of data journalism and kind of what it's doing now and what it's going to do in the future and what it means for both the consumer and the journalist. So before we kind of get into it, are you happy with us to record this discussion and have it transcribed for our assignment?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of the release form, if you could get that back to us whenever is possible, but just wanted to make sure that you're comfortable with us potentially using this not only just for our university assignment, but also for later publication as well.
Yep.
Okay, great.
But I need you to check with me which publication, if you actually confirm the publication.
Yep. Okay. No worries. That's noted. All right. So we'll just jump right into it. To the unassuming consumer, what is data? What are we working with?
What is data? So data is information. I mean, data is data. It's hard to break it down any further than that. It's just any sort of information. Can be text, can be numbers, can be anything.
Okay. So what is it that you do with that data?
Usually I would take something like a larger data set and convert it into something that simplifies it and makes it easily understandable. So that might involve a couple of different steps, like data analysis is usually one of the first steps after getting the data and potentially cleaning it up. So during the data analysis step, you want to find out any interesting bits and pieces in there, any trends, kind of things that stick out, or if you go into it with some questions, you try and answer those questions with the data analysis side of things. And then sometimes you also visualize either the data itself or the output of your data analysis to make it easy to understand, so to show the trends or interesting things that you found. But also sometimes data visualization is part of the analysis itself.
Okay.
That's about it.
So is it functioning kind of in the more traditional sense? Is it kind of functioning like it's the subject, it's the interviewee in a sense? You're manipulating that data for the answers that you're looking for to those questions?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you think is it a trend? Data analysis and data journalism seems like it's really come to the light in the past few years. Is that accurate?
No. So it's been around for a long time. It just used to be called something else. So if you look up computer-assisted reporting, and things like NICAR in the US, NICAR, you'll see that it's been around for a fairly long time. And it's only more recently, I guess, maybe in the last, 5 years or so, that data journalism has become, a common phrase in the newsroom.
Yep.
But certainly in Australia, we didn't really have much in the way of computer-assisted reporting or data journalism up until the last 10 years, I guess. But in the US, it's been around for a long time.
Okay. And does your work with data in your role kind of stem from a personal interest with data that you had before you took the step into the newsroom?
It's more of a skill set, not so much personal interest. I mean, I'm interested in lots of different things, obviously.
Yeah.
But because I didn't start off in journalism, I started off in science. So my background was in science and data analysis and molecular biology and all those sorts of things. So when I decided to get out of research and into journalism, data journalism was an obvious thing, as was science journalism, but data journalism was a bit more interesting because I could learn how to program, I could learn how to make things interesting on the internet, all of which is actually pretty fun. And they're actually employable skills as well. Unlike, unfortunately, just being a plain old science journalist. I mean, you can work in journalism, you can work in PR maybe, and in communications roles, but if you're a programmer, then you can work in a lot of other jobs as well.
So, in terms of where we met, right, the Global Editors Network, and you and Paul and, was it Brett? Was Brett the...
Yeah, Brett is our designer.
Yeah, okay, so the three of you guys were among a bunch of teams that were competing with these innovative, interactive kind of data application systems that were both for the journalists and for the consumer, or some were for the journalist, some were for the consumer. And your tool was aimed at enabling journalists to focus on the more in-depth stories, right, by using that tool which produced the more mundane stories with the algorithm. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
How is that tool going? Have you implemented it in the newsroom?
No, I haven't had any time, unfortunately. So because of the budget and the election, that's been taking up pretty much all of my time. So I haven't really had any time to work on anything else outside of that. So I'm working like 12-hour days at the moment, just until the budget and election is called.
We so appreciate you making some time to talk to us then. We really appreciate that. In terms of that tool though, like hypothetically speaking, one of the kind of points of opposition that you had when you presented it to the group was that it could potentially make journalists redundant, or was this tool going to make, journalists redundant? Do you think that that's a real point of fear with systems like this that can, use an algorithm to create content?
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid concern for journalists to have, certainly. It's kind of like in any industry when you look at automation, it can change the way the industry works. But in the case of journalists, mostly, I think in almost all cases, it probably won't make anyone redundant just yet, because it would require a fair bit more advancement in things like artificial intelligence, kind of natural language processing kind of stuff, before you could actually get something that could write a story, like a feature story, or write something and pick out interesting things that people would find interesting. So the automated thing that we created works well for structured data sets where you know what to expect, or you can mathematically pull out the interesting things.
Yeah.
And that's fine for like sports results, it's fine for like poll results, and just pulling out the interesting things and the changes that happen over time, like weather data or whatever. But if you can't then go and add context, like it can't go and find an expert and say, what does this actually mean? It can only describe the changes, if you know what I mean. So you can't put them in a larger context. And until someone comes up with a very much more advanced program that can do that, then I don't think journalists really have anything to worry about, unless you are specifically only doing those sort of things where you're literally just, writing stock market reports that don't have any added context, and they just say what went up and what went down, or maybe sports reports, but even the sports journalists I know don't really write like that. So more replacing, I guess, certain aspects of wire services. So potentially there might be a couple of people in wire services who would be affected.
Yeah.
But that said, wire services are already switching to doing this. So in the US, Associated Press has, I think it's Associated Press, I'd have to look that up, but yeah, they've already partnered with Narrative Science or Automated Insights, I can't remember which, to get automated copy in their wire service. So you either wait for someone else to do it and then they sell it to you, or you create an open source version which the newsrooms can actually control, which is our approach.
Yep.
So from my point of view, that's much better because you're not waiting for it to happen to you from someone else outside of the industry. You can set up your own version, you can make it work with the things you want it to work with, you don't have to pay someone else for it, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of that situation where it's like new technology, but it's better to be the one with the new technology rather than paying the person with the new technology.
Yeah. Do you think that from the consumer perspective, to be reading articles that are written by a machine, do you think that would be a detriment to a publication's authority, or is it kind of similar to, like, you know, when you see an AP at the bottom of a article or Reuters? Would it be? That's kind of a double barrel there, but do you think that there would having these automated services would destabilize the authority of publications that are based on having really intelligent, context-based authorities?
Probably not. I mean, if you make it clear where it's come from, I don't think it really matters. People take all sorts of things on authority.
Yep.
Just because they're written into the newspaper or whatever. So, like, it's no different to having an analyst from some think tank write a report and then send that report to a journalist, and then the journalist just reviews those figures. I mean, it's no worse, no better. There's just as much, you know, dangers there from someone skewing it or getting it wrong. If anything, it's probably better because the source code for the entire thing is reviewable, so you can actually check and see if it's doing the wrong thing, whereas mostly with these reports that get sent to newsrooms, you just have to take it on faith that they've done the right thing. Well, this is a proper peer-reviewed one, which goes into a journal, in which case there's some processes around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's any worse than what's already happening.
With those kind of tools, both the one that you guys developed and the other ones that were mentioned over the course of those 2 days, and I guess even visual data interactives, things like that, who do you think ultimately benefits most from this kind of data aggregation? Would it be the journalists or the audience, or is it both?
Ultimately, you'd like to think it was the audience. Certainly with the government transparency stuff that I work on occasionally, you do get that sense that there is actual benefit there. You're making things available that weren't available before, or things that might not have been searchable before are now searchable. So, you know, making it so someone can actually check the register of interest properly, or see updates from when someone's changed their donation declarations or things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fairly obvious civic benefit, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, certainly the readers benefit, people generally benefit. Does the journalist benefit? I guess so. I mean, they get to keep their job because they're doing their job, so why not?
It sounds like it's almost a return to these core values of holding people accountable and really doing the proper investigative reporting that has, in some ways, gone amiss for some publications. Like, this data approach sounds like it could bring back to that focus of really investigating what matters because there is that data available. Would that be accurate?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I would say that, yes, most of the people who are doing this are looking at things like that and are looking at projects like that, that have an investigative slant and are looking at what people would think of as important things. But data journalism itself is just a tool and an approach. Like, it's not necessarily any better or worse. I mean, you could still just go and use some shitty survey data about, dog names in Tasmania, with a really low sample size, and write a story and do a whole bunch of interactive graphs about it, and it wouldn't necessarily be good journalism, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, and potentially we'll see more and more of that as the barriers to entry drop, and they are dropping. It's not as hard to get into as it used to be. There's lots more third-party tools and programs and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, if you've got a data set, you can do anything you want with it, but you need to have already determined that the data set was collected in the right way, that it was, there wasn't any biases initially in it, or what the limitations of it are, all that sort of stuff. And so, I mean, it's just the same as the journalists doing their job normally. Like, if they do all the due diligence for documents that someone gives them or verifies when the source is telling them, then they're going to be a good journalist, but they could also be a bad journalist, not doing any of that stuff. So it's pretty much the same. I think it's just that people who are in it at the moment skew more towards political transparency and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it looks like it's better.
Well, this is especially timely, not with just the election, but also the release of the Panama Papers. And I just would love to know, how far off is the work that we're seeing emerge on, say, the Panama Papers and this data kind of aggregation from the work of, say, Woodward and Bernstein and the Watergate experience? Is this form of digital data scraping and things like this kind of a natural progression for the field?
Yeah, I would say so. So, I mean, the biggest thing with the Panama Papers, which, if you kind of look at some of the, how they did it behind the scenes type stories, is it wasn't just a leak. So they got the leak, but they indexed everything and they made it all searchable in a giant database. And so that made reporting on it a lot easier, and certainly I've worked on stories where we've had to do similar things, but we haven't had that large-scale approach, and it does make it a lot easier. So they had this kind of web interface for a database, and you could search, you could run multiple searches using a CSV of search terms. You could do all this sorts of stuff, and those sorts of things make dealing with large leaks much better, because otherwise you're left with just really simple stuff. Like, we've had not massive leaks before, but we've had some leak documents that we've had to deal with in the same way, and it's a bit tricky. Like, you've got to set it up on a computer with decent security, but you also have to make it indexable. And so you might not necessarily want to use something like Document Cloud, which was actually made for that sort of thing, but because you have to upload it to someone else's server, so you have to find out, like, you have to make all these things and make it searchable easily and all that sort of stuff. But that was the main thing, I think, was just the database approach made it a lot easier than, like, previous years where they've had to comb through maybe file by file.
Hi, so this is Emily speaking now. I was just wondering what you were working on at the moment. So it's just with the upcoming election and with the budget, were you saying?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a statistical model which combines all the polls together for a more accurate view on where simultaneously, we're doing all the results graphics for the election. So we've got some other things that I can't talk about, which will roll out through the election as well. I've actually had to put all my more interesting stories to the side at the moment because it's just me and one other person at the moment who are able to do this sort of thing for us. So, yeah.
You mentioned graphics and the visual element of this. It seems like it makes the difference between these interactives that can really impact an audience and those that are potentially maybe not reaching as many people as they could be in in this digital environment. So how important is the visual interaction with the consumer?
It'll depend on the story. I mean, sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not necessary at all. So if like the main thing, the important thing, the kind of, biggest finding out of your data analysis or whatever can be explained in text really easily, then you can just do it in text and it'll work fine and people will be interested in it and they'll read it and they'll share it. But if it's easier to show visually in a graphic, then you should do that. And sometimes that's a lot better than trying to explain it in text because it's hard. But similarly, I guess some people try and use interactive visualizations to make things more appealing than they actually are.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's kind of good or bad. It's like sometimes you can do it, you can have all these great animations and stuff, but the actual output or like what it's saying is not that interesting. And I don't have anything against that because if you can put your story in front of more people, then that's better for the story. But if it sacrifices either it obscures the real point of the story, or if it means that you spend more time on all these visual bells and whistles that you should have been doing maybe on a more important story, then I think you should not do it, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, certainly the visual approach is good for a lot of different reasons. Outside of that, it gives you different ways into stories that you didn't have before. So like a big trend at the moment in data journalism generally and interactive graphics generally is personalization. Mm-hmm. So you can make the story relevant to a specific person rather than write it for everyone.
Yep.
So that might be something as straightforward as we did something about housing affordability, and we added a thing where you can see how long it would take you to save for a deposit, for example, in different areas all around Australia. And that wasn't necessarily the main point of it. The point of it was to show different demographic brackets as well, but the thing that people were most interested in and shared the most was how long it would take them, because it's of much more relevance to them than it is some kind of average family with one child type thing. Because even though you might be in that kind of range, in that kind of income bracket, your situation can be quite different. So if you can make it completely personalised, which you can with interactive design, it's a lot more relevant for more people.
Yep. Do you work with the Data Labs as well?
I'm not sure what that is, sorry.
The Guardian Data Labs? Perhaps
yeah,
it might just
I don't know who that is.
It might just be based in the UK version of the publication. But our research on the Guardian Data Lab suggests that they produce data visualizations and interactives for the publication as well as for external stakeholders. With that kind of focus, is data as important for journalists as it is for any kind of communication experience?
Did you mean Guardian Labs, maybe?
I'm sorry?
Did you mean Guardian Labs?
Yes.
Okay, so Guardian Labs, the kind of branded content section is the Guardian UK.
Yep.
So they do like sponsored content essentially, so I don't really work with them too much.
Okay. in terms of looking at what they do, though, using this, do they use data to create their branded campaigns, or is data totally separate to what they do?
No, I mean, they have pretty much the same approach in terms of production and design that we would have. It's
Okay.
just that the genesis of the story itself is like, it's done as a brand partnership. So someone comes in and says, we're interested in telling a story about X, Y, or Z. We'll give you some money to do this, and they will do it.
Yeah. Does that suggest perhaps that data is at this really at a tipping point where it's starting to positively affect and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's propelling business concepts forward as well, as opposed to just journalism and storytelling?
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Possibly. I mean, there's lots of businesses set up around it now. There's like people who specialize in data science. They're very popular in the US. You can get a job like very easily now.
Yep.
Because everyone's trying to hire them. There's lots of companies that do analysis of large data sets now. There's lots of companies that make tools for analysis of large data sets. And so I guess companies are beginning to realise that if they do have these people and these tools, they can get a lot of value out of it. But, I mean, that doesn't really impact much on what the sponsored content guys are doing in the UK, I don't think.
Okay.
They just have a similar approach to the editorial people in terms of production, but starts somewhere else and it goes somewhere else.
Yep. All right. Well, we just have one last question. In terms of as emerging journalists and storytellers, what do you think are the most important skills for us to, really jump into acquiring while we're still emerging?
I don't know what you want to do. I don't know. I mean, if you want to make interactive stuff, then you're going to have to learn how to program. But if you don't want to make interactive stuff, then you don't need to learn how to program. So, I don't know. I mean, you got to learn the basics first. You got to learn how to write a news story, of course. But that's like the very first stage of any journalist training anyway. So, I don't know.
Just in terms of like the data side of things, is engaging with data the next is it the next frontier?
In journalism?
Yeah.
Not particularly. I mean, it's a thing. It's not the thing, if you know what I mean. Like, people always ask this question or say these things like, do all journalists need to code now, or you start a journalism, the next thing that everyone needs to know how to do? But the industry doesn't actually work like that. Like, it's not set up like that. It's like when everyone said, every journalist needs to know how to do video, take photos, and write copy. That was like when I did postgraduate, and no media companies here are actually hiring people like that, except for a couple of very specialised departments, and no job would actually involve shooting a video, writing the copy, and taking the photos. Maybe now I think there's a few more people doing it, but even still, like that's kind of like not the rule. I mean, so I wouldn't say that everyone needs to learn how to program, because everyone will be programming. Just as I wouldn't say everyone needs to learn how to shoot video, but I don't know. If you want to do it, you should do it. If you don't want to do it, then you don't need to.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we really appreciate all of the time you've given us. We don't want to keep you for any longer. So we will be in touch if we have any other questions. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Fantastic. Well, best of luck with the election coverage.
Thank you.
And we'll talk
See ya.
soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
God, you were on such a roll. Like, you knew what to say and everything. Oh gosh, I think that went really well there. Oh god.